Janina Grace Televic, and this is in compliance for CMSC 209 final project. This is an MIS for Commission and Audit Regional Clusters. It's called an Auditors Collaboration and Management System. I'll start the discussion with an organizational overview for the Commission and Audit and provide the scope and problem definition, discuss as well the current processes and SWOT analysis, and then feature evaluation and selection, and then also explain the conceptual design and show a prototype for the user interface, and then an implementation plan and feature plan for the system.
The Commission on Audit is the supreme auditing arm of the Philippine government. Its duty is to examine, audit, and settle all accounts pertaining to the revenue and receipts of expenditures or uses of the funds and properties of the Philippine government. The Commission and its regional branches ensure that government officials are not pocketing taxpayers' money. The MS design and implementation plan is exclusively for the management of the auditing teams in one of the regional office in Mindanao. Any concerns and issues in Luzon and Visayas auditing teams may not be addressed by this project. Since this system is for the auditing teams that are under the COA's regional office, it is important to understand how they are organized. The COA regional office is around 300 auditors divided into different clusters, and then each cluster has a lead CPA who consolidates all the work of the member auditors.
Through in-depth discussions with the auditors, I was able to define the problem that will be addressed by the information systems that is designed here. So historically, only 70% of the reports are submitted to the regional supervising auditor on time. And with this, it, the reason behind is that all activities involved for the audit cycle are carried out manually. The only tools they have would be Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel. Communication between the team members is done through social media and SMS, and there's really no standardization. And they use like their personal devices to communicate among each members of the cluster. There's no standardized method as well in progress tracking, and there are no data repository or knowledge management system for new auditors to use in learning the whole process. Every time someone comes in as a new cluster member, the gathering of materials would be started from scratch. And there's a lot of delay that is caused by this ineffective onboarding process.
For the current process, it starts with one of the auditing team members would conduct initial cash flow process review with the agency assigned, and then the disbursing or collection officer of that agency will provide disbursements or collections documentation to the auditor. And then a cash flow examination will be done, the documents will be prepared, and an AOM or audit observation memo will be served to the audited agency. There could be a disallowance, and that disallowance would have to be resolved. And if it's finalized, then that will be submitted to the regional office. The supervising auditor in the regional office will review the draft of the AOM and then will send the confirmation for final printing, and then the hard copy will be printed by the team, and then it will be signed and submitted to the regional office. In the SWOT analysis, the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats were identified, and it has been revealed that one of the strengths of the team would be having a closely knit relationship, tech-savvy team members, and autonomy within the team. This MIS plan will leverage on the strengths of the organization, and it will also capitalize on the opportunities at hand, including the availability of software as a service applications that can easily support the team's work, projects, tasks, and document management online. To define the requirements, user stories were written for three personas: the team leader, team member, and the regional supervising auditor. To determine the prioritization of the feature to implement, business value and implementation complexity was identified. The auditing team members were asked to identify where they would classify the features identified in the priority grid. Intuitively, we can prioritize the feature that has a high business value but easier to implement. Based on the grid, messaging should be on top of the list. Next in priority would be features that can deliver the most business value but may take some time in implementation because of the complexity. Constraints on the budget and unavailability of an in-house programmer, commercial off-the-shelf software will be considered. COTS solutions are third-party solutions that are bought, licensed, or acquired, and it can also be integrated into a larger system. After some careful evaluation of the available COTS software that would have the features required, it has been identified that Slack will be used for messaging collaboration, Asana for task management, and Tetra for knowledge management. An optional dashboard system for the regional office will sit on top of these COTS software that will be utilized by each auditing teams. And for an optional phase 2 of the project, the regional office will have this system developed in-house for online submission and consolidation of reports, progress tracking, and evaluations management. So there will be inbound and outbound flow of data from the messaging and collaboration software, which is Slack, to the audit cycle management system, as well as to the task management system and the knowledge management system. For the audit management system that will be built on top of the messaging and collaboration app Slack, this entity relationship diagram was drafted, wherein there are entities that include the agency, the project, the milestone, the cluster, and the auditor. Each cluster can be assigned to multiple agencies and multiple projects, and each project will have multiple milestones with specific due dates for each. It is important to note that the system of record for auditor data will still be COA's employee database. This is showing a high-fidelity prototype of the user interface for the audit management system that pulls data from all the Slack channels of each audit cluster. The dashboard shows key metrics available in the monitoring of the submission of audit reports by all the cluster of the region. Clusters that are becoming delinquent in their submission is easily identified. Through the messaging functionality, the supervising auditor can send a Slack reminder message to the specific channel of the cluster. The first phase of the project is for the implementation of the COTS software. The rollout of the project will be done separately for each auditing team. The schedule of activities for the pilot project will just be replicated to the rest of the auditing teams under the regional office of COA. Phase 1 implementation starts with the requirements analysis, followed by stakeholder review, procurement of the licenses, and the first application or COTS application that will be installed, it would be the messaging service, which is Slack. It will be configured and it will be integrated with Asana, the task management system. Then after that, it will be integrated with Tetra, which is the knowledge management system. And then creation of training and documentation wikis within Tetra will be done. Testers will be registered. The configuration will be tested and then finalized, and then the fully integrated system will be released. Once phase 1 implementation is done, which means all clusters are already using Tetra, Asana, and Slack, and they have reached a certain level of familiarity in using the integrated COTS system, then phase 2 can proceed. Phase 2 implementation is just basically building the audit management system that is sitting on top of the COTS software, and that has the dashboard that will be used by the regional supervising auditor. It starts with user research and product requirement definition, and then the finalization of the user interface design, then stakeholder approval, then the database setup in Amazon Web Service or Azure if the agency prefers to use Microsoft Azure, product development, which takes up to from week 7 to week 18 of the project, and then alpha testing, beta testing, end user validation, and then deployment. And therefore, phase 2 should be completed within 6 months.
Listed are the references that I used for this study, and thank you for listening.